There is a truth that echoes within every heart, often buried beneath layers of fear, doubt, and complacency, the truth that you are capable of more than you imagine. Too often, people believe they are bound by their past, chained by their circumstances, or limited by the weight of their failures. Yet, the greatest transformation does not begin when the world changes for you. It begins when you resolve to change within yourself. Upon yourself rests the first responsibility, the first step, and the first awakening toward a greater life. The life you long for is not created by accident. It is shaped by deliberate choices, carved out of determination, and sustained by the refusal to surrender when impossibilities glare in your face. You must understand that the greatest prison is not one of walls and bars, but of the mind that says, "This cannot be done." For the truth is, what seems impossible to the faint-hearted becomes possible to the one who believes and acts with courage. Changing your life does not mean escaping who you are. It means rediscovering who you were always meant to be. It means confronting your weaknesses with honesty, but not allowing them to define you. It means looking at your wounds not as marks of defeat, but as reminders that you survived and that survival was never the end but the beginning. The impossible is not a barrier, it is a summons. When mountains rise before you, they do not demand your retreat, they call for your ascent. When storms rage against you, they do not insist upon your destruction. They challenge you to hold firm and discover the strength that only resistance can reveal. The impossibility is not the enemy. It is the very canvas upon which greatness is painted. But the change you desire cannot be borrowed from others. No friend, no mentor, no voice can live your transformation for you. The voices may inspire, the guides may point, but the journey is always yours to take. Upon yourself, you must bear the weight of decision. Upon yourself, you must carry the burden of discipline. Upon yourself, you must rise even when everything within you urges you to fall. You must learn to see the impossible not as a wall, but as a door. It is a door that only opens when pushed with persistence, when knocked upon with faith, and when believed in with unwavering resolve. Do not wait for certainty never arrives before the step is taken. The road is not lit until you set your foot upon it. The water does not part until you dare to move forward. Your life will not be transformed by wishful thinking, but by courageous doing, and courageous doing often feels like leaping when the ground beneath you has not yet appeared. The impossible becomes possible not by the absence of fear, but by moving forward in spite of fear. Courage is not the denial of weakness. It is the defiance of weakness. There is no power in postponement. There is no victory in excuses. The hour to change is not tomorrow, not when conditions are better, not when you feel more prepared. The hour to change is now, for now is the only moment you truly hold. And when you grasp it with both hands and refuse to let it go, you will discover that the impossible is not as far as it seemed, that the chains that bound you were only as strong as your belief in them. So I say this, upon yourself change your life. Do not look for miracles elsewhere when the miracle of choice and courage rests already in your hands. Do the impossible, for the impossible is simply the name given to what has not yet been dared by you. True transformation begins within. Upon yourself rests the responsibility to choose courage, discipline, and action. True transformation begins within. Upon yourself rests the responsibility to choose courage, discipline, and action. The impossible is not a barrier, but a summons to rise higher, discover hidden strength, and defy limitations. The impossible is not a barrier, but a summons to rise higher, discover hidden strength, and defy limitations. When we look at what stands before us and label it impossible, we are often declaring not the truth of the obstacle, but the limitation of our own belief. The word impossible does not reveal the nature of the task, it reveals the state of the heart and mind that confront it. The great mistake of many is to assume that impossibility is a wall designed to halt progress, when, in reality, it is a call to uncover what lies dormant within. It is a challenge meant to awaken courage, endurance, and creativity that would otherwise remain concealed in the quiet comfort of what is familiar. The impossible exists not as a denial of your strength, but as a summons to discover its depth. To rise higher in the face of impossibility requires a willingness to let go of the ordinary. Life is too often lived in patterns of predictability, where the mind settles into routines that feel safe but stagnant. Yet, when the impossible emerges, it shakes us from that comfort and demands we ascend beyond what we thought was our limit. Rising higher is not about achieving what others have not. It is about surpassing the boundaries you once imposed upon yourself. It is the act of realizing that the line you drew to mark your limb, it was drawn in sand, not stone, and can be crossed if only you dare to step further. The call to rise is never comfortable because it stretches you into realms where fear, doubt, and uncertainty dwell. But it is there, at those heights, where you uncover the perspective and vision that will never be found by clinging to the ground. Hidden strength is discovered only in the struggle. Many people live their lives unaware of the power that resides within them simply because they have never been pressed to the point of finding it. Adversity is the forge in which hidden strength is drawn out, and impossibility is the fire that makes the forge burn hot. It is in the moments when you think you cannot take another step, and yet you do, that strength unveils itself. It is when you believe you cannot endure another night of trial, and yet you rise in the morning, that resilience is born. The reservoir of power within you is deeper than you imagine, but it can only be reached when the surface waters are exhausted. The impossible is the demand that you go beyond what is easy, that you plunge into depths you never thought existed, and that in doing so, you find yourself transformed into someone stronger than you believed you could ever become. To defy limitations is not arrogance. It is courage clothed in action. The limits we accept often exist more in the mind than in reality. A person who declares a thing cannot be done has already surrendered to defeat before the battle begins. But those who dare to test their limits discover that most boundaries were illusions created by fear. Defiance of limitation does not mean recklessly ignoring obstacles. It means refusing to be imprisoned by them. It means looking at the mountain and saying it can be climbed even when the path is hidden. It means confronting the weight of opposition and choosing not to bow. To defy limitation is to rewrite the definition of what is possible by proving through action that the barrier others respected was never truly unbreakable. The impossible is also a teacher. It instructs the soul in patience, endurance, and faith in ways that ease and comfort never could. When everything feels within reach, there is no reason to stretch, but when the impossible looms ahead, the spirit is stretched beyond its old capacity. Lessons are learned in the dark valleys that cannot be gained on the smooth plains. Patience is forged when results do not come quickly. Endurance is born when the trial refuses to end, and faith grows when the evidence for hope seems absent. The impossible refines a person, chiseling away the weak and revealing the essence of perseverance. It is not meant to mock or break you. It is meant to shape you into someone who can stand firm when others collapse and press forward, when others retreat. Those who answer the summons of the impossible also discover that greatness is never given but forged. Every achievement that once seemed unreachable began as a defiance of what others declared could not be done. History remembers not those who accepted the limits of their time, but those who shattered them. Yet, even beyond history, in the quiet corners of life, countless victories are won by ordinary people who refused to surrender to impossibility, the parent who rebuilds after loss, the student who overcomes poverty to learn, the soul who chooses forgiveness when hatred feels easier. These are acts of defiance against impossibility as much as any grand feat. Each victory, small or great, is a testimony that impossibility was not the final word. Within every life lies a choice. When impossibility presents itself, one can bow before it, accepting the label of cannot as a final sentence, or one can see it as an invitation to rise. The summons is not for the faint-hearted, but for those who are willing to discover what lies beyond the threshold of their known strength, to rise higher, to uncover hidden reserves of power, and to defy the boundaries that once held you. This is the gift that impossibility offers to those who answer its call. Change does not wait for perfect conditions. It begins now, through fearless steps taken in faith and persistence. Change does not wait for perfect conditions. It begins now, through fearless steps taken in faith and persistence. The greatest deception that holds people captive is the belief that they must wait until everything aligns before they move forward. They tell themselves that once they feel stronger, once they have more resources, once the timing is right, then they will begin. Yet life never unfolds in flawless symmetry, and those who wait for perfect conditions often wait forever. There will always be obstacles, uncertainties, and reasons to delay, but transformation demands that you begin even when the path ahead is clouded and the outcome is uncertain. The present moment is the only ground upon which real change can be planted, and every step you postpone is a step that keeps you chained to what you long to leave behind. Fearless steps are not steps absent of fear. They are steps taken in spite of it. Fear will whisper that you are not ready, that you will fail, that others will mock or abandon you. Fear will paint pictures of disaster and magnify every weakness you carry. But fearless living is not about erasing fear. It is about refusing to surrender to its lies. It is about stepping forward with trembling hands and a racing heart, knowing that fear has no power to bind you unless you yield to it. Fear loses its strength the moment you act against it. For every step taken in courage diminishes the voice of doubt. Each act of bravery, however small, is a declaration that fear will not write your story. And with every courageous act, the chains that once held you grow weaker until they finally break. Faith is the compass that guides these steps. Faith is not blind optimism nor wishful thinking. It is the assurance that meaning exists even when evidence seems scarce, that light shines even when the path looks dark. Faith is what empowers you to take the first step when you cannot see the second. It is the inner conviction that the ground will hold when you place your foot upon it. Without faith, every obstacle looks larger than it is, and every challenge feels heavier than you can bear. But with faith, you recognize that strength is not always visible at the beginning, but revealed as you continue the journey. Faith carries you when logic insists you should quit, and it opens doors that hesitation would keep locked. To live by faith is to recognize that you are not limited by what you see, but are sustained by what you believe. Persistence is the anchor that keeps you moving when progress feels slow and results appear distant. Many begin the journey of change with enthusiasm, but enthusiasm fades when the path stretches longer than expected. Persistence is what keeps you pressing forward when motivation has waned. It is the quiet decision, repeated day after day, to continue even when the reward has not yet arrived. Persistence is often less dramatic than courage and less visible than faith, but it is no less powerful. It is persistence that builds habits, habits that shape character, and character that produces transformation. The waterfall does not carve stone by a single strike, but by the continual flow of water over time. In the same way, persistence shapes your life, not through grand gestures alone, but through steady, repeated acts of determination waiting for perfection, is a subtle form of fear disguised as wisdom. It convinces you that caution is prudence when in reality it is paralysis. Perfection whispers that you need more preparation before you act, that conditions must be flawless before you dare. But preparation has no meaning without application, and conditions rarely align themselves without your movement. The act of beginning creates its own momentum, and momentum creates its own opportunities. By starting now, you set into motion possibilities that would never exist if you remained still, and it is in motion that clarity often arrives. You do not need to see the entire staircase to climb the first step. You need only to trust that with each step, more of the path will be revealed. Those who change their lives are not those who waited until they had no doubts. They are those who acted in spite of their doubts. They are not those who possessed unlimited strength at the beginning, but those who discovered strength through persistence. They are not those who had every resource at their disposal, but those who made use of what little they had and multiplied it through faith and courage. The difference between those who remain the same and those who are transformed lies not in external conditions, but in the decision to begin without waiting for perfection. Change is never about conditions being ready. It is about you being willing to act now, is to honor the present as the gift it truly is. Too many squander their lives waiting for a tomorrow that never comes, forgetting that every tomorrow is built from the choices made today. Every great change begins in a single moment, often one that looks ordinary to the outside world, but carries extraordinary weight within. That single moment of decision becomes the seed from which a new future grows. To begin now, even with small steps, is to plant the seeds of transformation that persistence and faith will water until they grow into reality. The call is not to wait until you feel unshakable, until your resources are abundant, until fear has disappeared. The call is to begin where you are with what you have, and to trust that faith and persistence will carry you further than hesitation ever could. Conditions will rarely align perfectly, but the decision to act now reshapes the conditions themselves. The impossible bends to those who step forward, not to those who sit still. Real transformation is birthed not in flawless timing, but in imperfect beginnings carried out with relentless persistence.